from the Illinois State Capitol, this is your Capitol Connection.
Welcome to Capitol Connection. I'm Mark Maxwell. The Me Too movement gained momentum on 4 very different fronts in Springfield this week, each of them posing a potential threat to the longest House Speaker in American history, Mike Madigan. Elena Hampton's lawyers took her case against Madigan's campaign committees to federal court. Hampton's harasser, Kevin Quinn, a former Madigan lieutenant, filed a public letter accusing Hampton of not telling the truth and opening the Speaker's operation to more criticism. Hampton threw her hat into the ring as a potential candidate to become the new director of the Democratic Party, as did Letisa Wallace, the running mate for the progressive candidate in the governor's race, Daniel Biss. Both would represent a significant loss in power for Madigan. And across the aisle, this group of Republican women staged a press conference to call on the Speaker to step down.
You don't have to have this power-hungry guy with 20th century ideas about women's place be your leader anymore.
We understand that there are more allegations to come back out from other women afflicted.
I asked him to make what I consider to be a significant move to show that he gets it, and he did that.
Senator Dick Durbin said it was his idea, not Madigan's, to appoint a panel of women to pick the next director of the state party after his longtime aide, Tim Mapes, was pushed out over harassment allegations last week. And the race for governor took another nasty turn this week. J.B. Pritzker is out with a new digital ad trying to link Governor Rauner's comments about tax cuts to President Trump's remarks about what happened in Charlottesville.
You also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
We're going to fulfill the promises of Donald Trump.
I'm very proud of what's been going on in the federal government, Congress, and the White House. When the president said what he did about Charlottesville, I criticized the president. Charlottesville was an atrocious affront to human rights and dignity, and was racist, and I called that out at the time.
Also this week in Illinois, a federal court temporarily blocked a ban on assault rifles and high-capacity magazines. It was in the Illinois village of Deerfield in Chicago's northern suburbs. The judge halted that local law that would have fined violators up to $1,000 a day and forced them to confiscate their weapons, where they would later be destroyed. The November election is still 5 months away, but already we're starting to see yard signs, political mailers, and paid TV ads up on the airwaves in some contested state house races, not just the governor's race. We went to the 48th Senate District this week to see the 2 candidates in the heart of the battleground county, Christian County, in Taylorville.
In the Senate, I've refused a pension, said no budget, no pay, and I'm working to freeze property taxes.
State Senator Andy Manar is already running paid political ads, and he opened 5 field offices stretching from Springfield down to Madison County. The push has his Republican rival Seth McMillan on the attack.
It's very telling that he went up on TV as early as he did. I think that he's worried.
Given his approach so far in the campaign, which has been overly divisive, I mean, it's clear that Mr. McMillan leads with politics, right? He leads with a partisan edge. We got plenty of that in Springfield right now.
McMillan chairs the Christian County GOP. He runs a landscaping company and teaches part-time. Strapped for cash, he's banking on a conservative district to bail him out.
This district has gotten more Republican. It's a district that is rated as the most Republican seat that is currently held by a Democrat.
He hasn't raised any money here locally. I think that is evidence of that divisive nature and his divisive reputation.
Manar has more than $500,000 in his campaign fund. McMillan, just $6,000.
I'm just a guy out knocking on doors, putting up signs. I don't have a staff the size of his. I certainly don't have a war chest the size of his.
An election just 5 months away. Many voters remain undecided.
I like Andy Menard because he wants the balanced, the school funding to be fair, but Seth's got some good points too, as far as I know.
So you sound undecided.
Yeah, I'm a little undecided on that one. But see, I vote for the man, not the party.
And we'll be bringing you more previews like that of several state house races as we get closer to November. When we come back, Todd Meisch with the Chamber of Commerce weighs in on this debate between a progressive or flat income tax. Stick around.
Every day, my dad rolled up his sleeves and went to work. 35 years, pouring concrete, driving a snowplow, operating a backhoe. He helped shape who I am and how I serve. As Macoupin County Board Chairman, I balanced the budget by cutting pay and pensions for elected officials. In the Senate, I've refused a pension, said no budget, no pay, and I'm working to freeze property taxes. Families here work hard. They deserve someone who rolls up their sleeves and goes to work for them.
At Flooring Depot, get hardwood from $2.99 a foot in stock. Always $200 off home center pricing. Flooring Depot. Say yes to paying less.
Hi, folks. Van for heel-to-toe shoes in downtown Urbana. Hey, it's time to get your sandals on. We have the most comfortable sandals on earth here. We've got sandals from all over the world, from Germany, from France. Beautiful products, really fun colors. Sandals that are going to make you so comfortable and fit you well. Tell your friends, come on in. Heel-to-toe shoes, 106 West Main, downtown Urbana.
Even if I'm not happy, I still have to pay.
There has to be an easier way.
If you're looking for easy, look no further. Aspen Dental is making things easier with a denture money-back guarantee. So, you always walk away happy.
That's pretty easy.
Easy said, easy done.
At Aspen Dental, we're easier. Get dentures starting at $3.99 and a money-back guarantee. Schedule online or call 1-800-ASPEN-DENTAL.
WCIA3 and Jackus Lab Construction salute the volunteers and supporters of Make-A-Wish. Every year, they grant wishes for children battling life-threatening medical conditions. Please support them and help make wishes come true for children in Central Illinois.
Built in 2004, this Midwestern family boasts strong foundations with sunny interiors. Plus, 2 twin-sized girls, 1 fixer-upper son, and 1 built-in bloodhound. Also comes attached with walk-in in-laws, located just around the corner. Perfect for the right agent with the right listing. Like this 3-bed, 4-bath colonial with an in-law suite, cozy family room, and laminated floors. Great for pets. RE/MAX agents are more recommended because they recommend what's right for you. That's the sign of a RE/MAX agent.
WCIA3 is celebrating Our Town Potomac this Friday. You're watching Capital Connection from the Illinois State Capitol.
One of the biggest emerging themes in this race for governor is the future of Illinois and how it collects taxes at a flat rate on your income or a progressive income tax. Governor Rauner clarified some remarks that he made earlier this week.
What I was referring to is the good things that the Congress and the White House have done, lowering taxes, getting tax reform, causing more economic growth. We now in Illinois are getting many hundreds of millions of dollars more of tax revenue because of the federal tax overhaul. That's good news. It's creating more jobs and higher incomes. And also Congress and the White House have passed regulatory relief, reduced the regulatory burden on businesses. That's causing more jobs to grow. That's causing higher family incomes. And I applaud that. And that's what we need in Illinois. We need tax rates down, we need tax relief, and we need regulatory reform to grow more jobs in the state of Illinois.
Joining us now is the head of the Chamber of Commerce here in Illinois, Todd Meisch. It's good to have you with us.
Great to be here.
We heard the governor's remarks there. He's saying that going to a progressive income tax would be bad for Illinois, but staying at a flat tax and cutting taxes would help to spur job growth. But let me ask you what we've seen so far from the federal government. The New York Federal Reserve just 2 or 3 days ago said that the expected household income growth is actually starting to slip off a bit recently, and this is in the wake of the Republican tax cuts. So is there a direct connection? Clarify for us, do you see a direct connection between cutting income tax, not a corporate tax, but an income tax, and job growth?
We certainly do. We believe that there are many, many factors that go into the economy, so you can't just point to one thing. But we think that lower taxes, to quote Ronald Reagan, having people spend their own money instead of having government spend it for them is a very, very good way to go ahead and make sure the economy is growing. I don't know too much about that one specific item, but people's paychecks are bigger than they were before the tax reform, and small businesses in particular get a lot of benefit from the federal tax reform that allows them to grow, invest in their business, and create jobs. So we think it's a definite plus.
You made some recent comments about the governor and his new budget. He signed his first budget in his 4th year of his first term. It's the first time he's passed a budget. But it didn't come with any of the previous turnaround agenda items that he promised. All the things that he said would be good for the business economy of our state to grow jobs. he essentially dropped all of them and signed this budget. Did the governor surrender?
I think he made a very practical decision that this is about as good as a budget as we can get. It wasn't a great budget, and if you listen to Moody's and the other rating agencies, they'll tell you this does not really solve Illinois' fiscal problems. It's a short-term bridge action to get us past the election, and we'll see what the people want to do. So my point that I talked about earlier was that we're very disappointed that workers' compensation, small business tax reform, items like that we want to see that are important for the long term needed to be sacrificed short term, and we're going to take those issues to the people in November, and we're going to see how the election goes.
You said in an interview with WCIA's Raquel Martin that it was the right political move for Governor Rauner because it would do what you just said, put this issue of taxes, business reform back to the people. Do you believe that Governor Rauner has the political will to go back through the potential for another budget impasse?
I don't have a corner on wisdom and I don't have a crystal ball, but I think that if the governor comes through this and he does win, running on those same items, I think it's going to be very difficult for the Democrats to say, hey, the people, this is something that people don't want, to call it an extreme agenda after the governor wins twice on those issues.
Which is something Mike Madigan routinely says. He calls Governor Rauner's business turnaround agenda an extreme, radical, right-wing agenda.
And it's not. It's just pro-business. It's what other states that are more successful than Illinois, it's their policies, and we're just trying to get them to be adopted here in Illinois. I think that but I will tell you from the governor's standpoint, though, I think he made some tactical decisions that were not the right way to go.
What's an example of one of those?
3.5. I think probably the biggest thing is the personalization of the conflict with Speaker Madigan. Probably should have been toned down, because then it became a clash of personalities as much more than what it should have been, which is a clash between his agenda and the status quo. The status quo, liberals, conservatives, moderates, nobody likes the status quo in Illinois. That should have been the bogey, I think, in my mind. Certainly, Speaker Madigan is not popular according to polls, so I understand his calculation, but I think we would have gotten more done if it hadn't been quite so personal right off the bat.
So you represent business groups that are members of the Chamber of Commerce all across the state. I want to get back into this tax issue again, because I asked a question at the start, which was, does income tax, the rate of income tax, not a corporate tax, but what you and I, when we get our paycheck and we go home and that takes a little bit away from our personal take-home pay, does that impede business growth? And you said yes, but that's different from a corporate tax structure, right? Connect those dots for me. How does a personal income tax impact business growth?
Well, it does it in a lot of very complex ways. I'm not an economist, but certainly the fact that you've got more take-home pay means you can spend more money, whether you decide to buy more groceries, or you decide to go to the movie theater, or you decide to put more money in your savings account. Then that savings account then gets recycled into the community in terms of loans, small business loans. So it's pretty complex, but the more money that's in the private sector, we think is much, much better. We think individuals spend their money better than government spends their money.
Mm-hmm. We've got a crowd coming in behind us here with some music, but we'll persist through here. So there was a group that came to Springfield this week demanding a $15 minimum wage. And this is sort of a nationwide movement. They call themselves the Poor People's Campaign, a well-organized group. But they say that the only way forward is a $15 minimum wage. J.B. Pritzker, the Democrat running for governor, says he supports this idea. I've seen you oppose this before. What impact would that have on businesses?
Very, very opposed. The proponents don't seem to understand economics 101. Now, I know J.B. Pritzker does, but I think my perception is it's a political decision that as a Democrat, he's got to support it. But he, I believe, has to know that small businesses cannot manufacture money. They don't go into the vault and open up and just take some more cash out and give it to their employees instead of taking it. That money that is going to go to employees at $15 minimum wage has to come from somewhere. So it means you're not investing in growth. You're cutting employees. I hate to point out, but McDonald's has already announced something that's very related to this, which is a lot of self-serve kiosks at McDonald's stores across the nation. It's a direct result to the.
And if I called Steve Easterbrook and said, "Why are you doing this?" he would tell me it's because humans are too expensive.
No, I'm going to tell you my viewpoint as the Illinois Chamber of Commerce. It's simple economics. That if you have labor costs going up, more than you can afford, you look for alternatives, and it means usually fewer jobs. And I think that's what we're going to see if we do see a $15 minimum wage.
This Poor People's Campaign says that the GOP tax cut from Congress was not just immoral in their words, but, quote, an act of violence. What do you make of that?
I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Words do matter. Violence is what violence is, and if you start to go ahead and redefining it in however way that suits your political agenda, that's not right. So I think it's absolutely ridiculous. It should be rejected by policymakers. It should be rejected by the media. Violence is what violence is. It means people really getting physically hurt. The notion that you can call it something else is absolutely ridiculous.
Todd Mice joining us from the Chamber of Commerce, and we've been serenaded by apparently a choir behind us. We'll have to get Hans Zimmer in here sometime and really add to the suspense. It gives sort of an ambiance, if you will. We're back in a moment with our Reporters Roundtable. Stay with us.
TitleMax makes it easy to turn your title into cash. Just go to TitleMax.com. Find out how much you can get.
Using TitleMax.com, I got $1,400.
$2,700.
TitleMax.com got me $4,000.
Best of all, most credit types are approved. Next time you need cash, try TitleMax for rate. Try TitleMax for the amount you need. Find out why so many people are saying, I got my title back with TitleMax.
Get your title back with TitleMax.
There's no feeling like family. Well, maybe one more. Come to Vermilion Chevrolet, because here you're treated like family with exceptional service and only our best prices on Chevrolets, Buicks, and GMCs. So when you're ready to start being treated the right way and drive the right vehicle at the right price, then visit Vermilion Chevrolet today and join the family.
Vermilion Chevys, always ready to get you driving.
Is your roof leaking or showing signs of water damage from a recent storm? If so, your roof needs immediate attention to prevent any further water damage to your home or belongings. Freeman General Contracting delivers prompt, expert, affordable roofing solutions engineered to fit your building and your budget. We're the experienced, reliable, licensed, and fully insured local roofer that you need. Give Freeman General Contracting a call now, 217-442-2281.
Having moderate to severe plaque psoriasis is not always easy. It's a long-distance run, and you have the determination to keep going. Humira has a proven track record of being prescribed for over 10 years. It's the #1 prescribed biologic by dermatologists. More than 250,000 patients have chosen Humira to fight their psoriasis, and they're not backing down. For most patients, clearer skin is the proof.
Humira can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal infections and cancers, including lymphoma, have happened, as have blood, liver, and nervous system problems, serious allergic reactions, and new or worsening heart failure. Before treatment, get tested for TB. Tell your doctor if you've been to areas where certain fungal infections are common, and if you've had TB, hepatitis B, are prone to infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Don't start Humira if you have an infection.
Join over 250,000 people who have chosen Humira. Ask your dermatologist about Humira and go.
Conservatives went to court this week to try and defund abortion, claiming there's a technicality in the budget. Here's what State Representative Peter Breen had to say, who's also the leading attorney on the case. And it's time now for insight and analysis from our Reporters Roundtable. Joining me now are Daisy Contreras from NPR Illinois. Good to have you with us. And John O'Connor from the Associated Press. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Mark.
Peter Breen there saying this remark about the ceiling. Help us understand. What does he mean by the ceiling?
Well, he's actually referring to last year's budget that the General Assembly did not officially get or approve a revenue estimate like the Constitution says the General Assembly should. The other side, the defendants in the court case, say that well, when in 1970, when the formers of the Constitution came together, they said, well, you know, we're just going to give them some room to not formally adopt a revenue estimate, but some form of it. So, you know, they're saying, Peter Breen is saying, no, the budget does not, it's not right because we went against what the Constitution says we should do.
So is he trying to defund this new created taxpayer-funded abortion as well, or is he trying to, I believe the judge said something about, wouldn't you be torching the whole state budget if you got your way?
Right. I mean, he's saying that's not the case, maybe so, but he's saying that, you know, the General Assembly did not legally set aside money for HB 40 to fund abortions. So, I mean, you know, it's interpreted various ways.
Did we get a reading or from the judge as to where this is headed? Do we know what's next with this particular case?
Well, they're still here. So this was just hearing the arguments after last year. The judge said, you know, the court can't really say anything that has to do with politics. This is something that you guys have to figure out yourself, so they dismissed the case. So Peter Breen and the group of conservative groups appealed the case. Now yesterday, Wednesday, they heard the arguments, and moving forward, they're still going to wait to see what comes out of that.
Interesting. There was another legal action this week where AFSCME, the biggest public union in the state, public employee union, went to fight back for some step increases, and there's also some back pay. It's the oldest bill, unpaid bill in the state, some $63 million owed to state workers, and that's included in the new state budget. Governor Rauner's traveling the state and saying that he's now the person who got that done after years and years, I believe 6 years of that bill going unpaid. Now, we believe starting July 1st, that $63 million will be released and paid to these state workers. But is that the full story? That Governor Rauner is the hero of this?
Well, you know, he's got a point insofar as the whole crux of that issue goes back to 2011 or 2012 when Governor Pat Quinn, the Democrat, who, you know, friends of the union, Democrats are, AFSCME is the biggest supporter of the Democrats. He was having budget problems, believe it or not, even then, and said, I can't pay these raises even though they're in the contract because there's no appropriation. Now, Governor Rauner can claim, yes, he's the champion of that in kind of a backhanded way, because when he came into office in 2015, that was the beginning of the budget impasse. But knowing that a government shutdown would turn against Governor Rauner's ideas for change before getting a budget, he argued, he went to court to make sure the state employees continued to get paid, even though the Attorney General was arguing there's no appropriation. They had no budget, but
so it was finger pointing between the governor and the state house over who authorized payment or who released payment, and they just both kind of pointing back and forth. This was Quinn in the state house at the time, and then it continued in the...
Yeah, it all came down to, are you obligated, does a contract trump an appropriation? And at the time, Pat Quinn said, no, it doesn't. If I don't have the money appropriated by the legislature, I can't pay this bill. But Governor Rauner in August of 2015 won a case and was on the side of AFSCME at the time to continue paying state employees even though there was no appropriation.
The Rauner administration was on pins and needles this week on Thursday because the Supreme Court looked as though, and they had added Thursday to their schedule, they're going to clear the docket of some of these different arguments and decisions that they've made, and perhaps the case of Janus versus AFSCME was going to come up. This could be a big political win for the governor. It didn't happen Thursday. It might happen tomorrow. But what's so big about this case of Janus versus AFSCME? We know it started here in Illinois, but why is this such a big deal to this governor?
I'll let you take it, John.
This is the U.S. Supreme Court, and it is a case that started with Governor Rauner. Mark Janus is a state employee of Illinois, and it revolves around the idea of fair share fees. If I'm not a member, I don't have to join the union, in this case, AFSCME, but I am required to pay a certain, not the same union dues, but fair share fees to pay for the administration of the union, because...
That entails your collective bargaining.
Because the union is required by law to represent me even though I'm not a part of the union. However, I'm not obligated to pay for their political activities.
Which is over and above. If you're a full member, you pay extra.
Right.
So they're trying to get that.
And it looks like a conservative U.S. Supreme Court is going to rule against the unions, that fair share fees aren't and I think unions across the nation are preparing for a negative result here. And what that'll mean is they won't be able to spend as much on their political activities. If they have to if they're not getting this pot of fair share fees, they'll have to spend more on administration and less on politics. So that would hurt Democrats too.
And AFSCME has argued that if they're not collecting that fair share due from that individual member, that they should not also have to represent them in a contract.
Right.
That could be an erosion of the full contract that has been providing benefits to all the state workers, not just the ones who are enrolled in the full membership. So it's interesting how that could play out too.
Yeah, and you know, and this sheds light on Illinois, sets a precedent, and yeah, I mean, Rauner hasn't had a very good relationship with unions since he's been governor. So I mean, this is something to look forward to and see what comes out of that as well.
And he of course, it would be a major victory for him in terms of the turnaround agenda, the conservative ideas that he came in saying, we need to change the culture in Illinois, to change the structure of power, which is too concentrated in the hands of Democrats and the unions. And he claims that he could have a tremendously different second term as governor if he were able to win this case, because it would take so much power away from the unions and give it back to the people, as he says.
Daisy and John, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're back in just a minute.